This lesson is going to cover sentence errors. So in the Introduction to Sentences lesson, we talked about that in order to be a complete sentence, the group of words had to have three things: a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. Sentence errors occur either when your group of words is missing one of those elements, or when you've attempted to combine sentences but did not follow the rules we discussed in the lecture on sentence types in terms of joining compound sentences or joining complex sentences. So we are going to focus on three different kinds of sentence errors that you'll want to avoid in your writing. The first is a sentence fragment. A sentence fragment occurs when you're missing one of the elements of a complete sentence, which again are subject, verb, or complete thought. If you're missing any one of those three, what you have is a sentence fragment, which is an error. It's a problem to be corrected. So let me give you an example of a sentence fragment. If I have the group of words running all night long, you might think you have a subject, but if so, there's no verb. You might think this is the verb, but then you don't know who was running all night long. So it's missing one of the three elements of a complete sentence. In this case, it's technically missing all three. You don't know who was running all night long, or if running is the subject, you don't know the action that running took or the linking verb following running. So this is a sentence fragment that would need to be corrected by adding whatever is missing to make it a complete sentence. So for example, you could add Carlos was running all night long. Then you would have a complete sentence instead of a fragment. Let me give you another example. If I have the guy from class with the long hair. This is a long group of words. It looks like it could be a sentence because it goes on and on, but don't let the length of the group of words sway your opinion or your understanding of whether it's complete or not. What it needs is a subject, a verb, and a complete thought. So here you could say the guy is the subject, but you don't know what he did. There's no verb, there's no action, therefore it doesn't have a complete thought either. So you could correct it by adding what's missing. In this case, it would be a verb. The guy from class with the long hair is friendly. Is your verb. That completes the thought, so then that would turn that fragment, that sentence error, into a complete sentence. Okay, I'm going to give you a third example now of a group of words that has a subject and a verb, so it seems like it's a complete sentence, but it's missing a complete thought. So if I have because the man was nice. Seems like it might be a complete sentence because it has the subject and it has the verb, but since it begins with this dependent word, this subordinating conjunction, that's not a complete thought. You're left wondering, what happened because the man was nice? What was the result of that? It's not a complete thought. Therefore, this is also a sentence fragment. The way you would create a complete sentence and correct the sentence error is you would finish the thought. So maybe you would say, because the man was nice, he helped me with my groceries. By adding that independent clause, that makes it a complete thought, so it's no longer a fragment. So the first sentence error that we're talking about here is a fragment. The next one is what's called a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence occurs when you try to join two complete sentences together with the wrong punctuation. So go back and review the lecture on sentence types to see how you can join two complete sentences together. You can do a comma and a fanboy, a semicolon, or a semicolon and conjunctive adverb. There's an error, namely a run-on sentence, when you join the two sentences together with no punctuation. So let me give you an example. If I have bacon is delicious, I eat it every day, or I eat it daily. I have a subject, I have a verb, I have another subject and a verb. I have two independent clauses here, and they're joined with absolutely no punctuation there. One just runs right into the next. This is a sentence error. It's a problem. It's called a run-on because you have two sentences with no punctuation. The way to correct this error is by using what we learned in the previous lesson. You can add a comma and a fanboy, or a semicolon conjunctive adverb comma, and that would correct that error. Let me give you another example. Exercising is difficult. I work full time. Here I have two complete sentences joined with no punctuation. That makes that a run-on because you cannot have two complete sentences with no punctuation. So you could turn this into a complex sentence by joining them with a subordinating conjunction like because. Then you would have exercise is difficult because I work full-time. That would correct the run-on because then you would be joining them correctly. The third and final sentence error that we're going to discuss and that you'll be responsible for avoiding or correcting in your writing is the comma splice. The comma splice occurs when you try to join two complete sentences with only a comma. A comma is not strong enough to hold two complete sentences together. A comma either has to have a fanboy word after it to join the sentences, or you need to change the comma to a semicolon or a period or something else. So using this run-on sentence, sometimes my students will try to fix it with a comma. However, I still have two complete sentences, and a comma cannot correctly join them. What you've done is turn the run-on into a different error, which is a comma splice. It still is a mistake. It still is incorrect. It has to be followed by, for example, a fanboy's word. So I could have bacon is delicious, comma, and I eat it daily. That would correct that comma splice. Same thing down here, exercising is difficult, comma, I work full-time. That's a comma splice. I've joined two sentences with only a comma, which is not correct. It's not allowed. So I could correct that by instead changing this, for example, to a period or a semicolon. Then that would correctly join those two sentences or correctly separate them into their own separate sentences. So these are very common mistakes that I see in student writing: the fragment, the run-on, and the comma splice. You have to be aware of what mistakes you tend to make, and I'll give you that feedback in your writing, and then you have to work on correcting them so that they are avoided.